Okay, so we're going to take the Karplus Strong patch from the video and make some modifications to it for performance and for variation, which is kind of what was done in the downloadable version of the patch if you uh, click the link in the delicious video. But it adds a little bit of extra math and things that we don't necessarily need to focus on. So going to make some alterations here to this one. First thing I'm going to do is replace my old style gain slider with a live.gain so I can get both gain control and metering. And so that works. Can bring it down just a little. So like that. So then the next thing to do is to replace, next thing we're going to do is add some velocity scaling so that we have response to key velocity. To do that, we need to take the key velocity out separately, scale it, and use that to trigger the ADSR. So it's going to take a scale object, I'm scaling 0 to 127, and I'm scaling it to 0 to 1 in floating point. And then I'm going to add an exponential scaling factor, which I talked about in a previous video, so that it is more expressive in what it does, how it responds, more like how we hear loudness to key velocity rather than a linear map. It'll be slightly curved. So find the output there. And I can take a look at the floating point to make sure it came out. And then what I need to do is, instead of setting the trigger just when I get a note on, I will make the scaled velocity be the trigger. Take away the constant 1 and just plug the trigger into ADSR. Okay, so then this can go away. Because the delay time, frequency to delay time is all I need the number out. And I can click again, patch. So low on the key is a softer velocity, higher up. Now as I move down the key, that gets to be a lower amplitude. So I've got some control. And I think what I want to do next is map it onto a MIDI keyboard so I can play from the keyboard instead of just the mouse key. Can do both. So unlock it, add a note in, add a strip note, note number and velocity, then note number to MIDI frequency, did a shift command Y to make the patch cord segmented, another shift command Y, velocity scale, and now I can play from my MIDI keyboard. All right, so that's nice. Moving forward, gonna save it. It's my video with additions. Okay, so now I think the next thing I'll do is replace the noise source with something that's a little more controllable. So the noise source is all frequencies at equal amplitude. The video does this at the end, and then it uses a rand tilde. And the rand generates a random number, a ramped random signal, generates the changing numbers at a specified frequency. and it smoothly ramps from each changing number. The maximum frequency it will contain is specified by the frequency argument, because if you only have the possibility of 1,000 values a second, you can only get 1,000 vibrations. So let's change this back to 22,000, just kind of round off the Nyquist. And I'll get the same thing that I had. But if I add a changeable frequency argument with a float and say, make this 5,000. Right? Really changes the overall timbre. If I go even lower to say maybe 3,000, the guitar becomes more bass-like. Right? Now, one thing you notice that the frequency is already below the filter cutoff frequency. So I can change this, and it's worth changing it independently of what frequency I put in, because that's another control. But let's change my filter frequency now to say 1500. Now I'm going to go down even further. So this is pretty low. I'm going to take it down to 500. It now starts to sound kind of drum-like, especially if I bring this frequency down. And I go higher. Okay, so this combination of the excitation source and what frequencies are present in the pluck, and what frequencies are being filtered out, and pretty quickly, if this is a feedback delay, gives you your decay. So if I go back up to the 5,000 that I had, go to 10,000 over here, okay, and I'm going to change the max sustain, because this could be the length of the pluck, if you will. And so instead of just the one message, let's make it a changeable argument. And get rid of the load bang. We can put an integer in the max sustain. And we can also put in a default load mess, so a message that's sent on load of 10, so it has something to start with. But now let's make this be, say, 5. Maybe 1. Changes, especially as you go low. Let's put that back down to 5,000, and maybe this to 2,000. And so you can see how that's having an effect. I guess the last thing I'm going to do is change the feedback amplitude. This one I need to be careful. So I'm going to go look at my inspector and put in a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 0.999. Although I played around with this in class, really 999 this is kind of an unnatural decay. If I was going to do it, maybe I'd do it with a 1. get some control of this back by, say, maybe going down to 1000 on the filter. Too much. So all controls that you can use. If I was going to make it just a little bit easier, the last thing I would do is really have these over in one spot, like it was in the video patch. So I would have a let's say excitation frequency, pluck length. What else did I have changeable? I had the filter. You can call it dampening, because that's what's doing. It's dampening the high frequencies. And then I could have a kind of decay control. That's the feedback if you want. And I'll copy this number because it has the limits. And I will send this to decay or feedback. Command Y. And over here, I can just replace that with the receive feedback. Filter damp. Will be a send. Receive. It matches. What else have I got? The pluck length. Receive pluck. So then the load mess has to be separate so it doesn't go through the receive. And then this is my excitation frequency. And, that's a keyword, send, say noise freak. Let's go around that way. I'm just going to leave it for now. I'm going to clean up these, put them in order. I need to receive noise freak. And so then I've made my changeable. My filter frequency. So if the max sustain is longer, like the 20, I still don't hear it as a big long scrape, but I get more punch. And less feedback. So this is a more functional patch, and I'm going to stop this one now and show you how to maybe vary it with adding more strings for the next time around. So that's it for this one.